Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and it's time for another Reading Ramble. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, time for another Reading Ramble and a little moan about how my plans have generally gone awry recently. But not just a moan, but I have a new plan of how to fix the old plan. So that's what I'll be chatting about a bit to start with. And then we'll have a little look at what I've managed to actually read in the last month or so. And anything that I've got coming up, some recent acquisitions, things like that. So everything will be timestamped. So if there's a particular thing that you're more interested in, like, my reading wrap up, things like that, then do feel free to jump to the relevant section for you. But to start with, yes, my plans have gone awry. I've found myself in a bit of a slump recently for various reasons. Most recently, illness. I'm still just getting over a stinking cold that I've had for over a week now. It's kind of been one of those horrible ones which kind of like you feel like you're getting better and then you like relapse for a few days and then you feel like you're getting better and then it comes back. It's been irritating. So that, and I've kind of, in the worst bits of that, I just have brain fog and I just haven't been able to read. Workload's been quite heavy the last month or so, and I'm definitely feeling that in terms of how much concentration I've got left for reading at the end of the day. And then the main thing is I've got some family stuff going on kind of behind the scenes at the moment that isn't necessarily taking up like a load of time just yet anyway. I think it will do probably, a bit down the line. But it is taking up quite a bit of brain power, quite a bit of focus. It's, things like that are stressful, aren't they? So when I get stressed, I tend not to want to read so much. I tend to be quite restless in my mind. I bounce around a lot. And when I do want to read, it's very specific stuff that I want to read in terms of the sorts of things. I've been gravitating towards wanting easier, cozier, trashier stuff. But I've not been reading that particularly because I'm very aware that I've got things on my own schedule, my TBR schedule for my projects. And then I just end up not reading anything. So, and that's not good, is it? So yeah, I'm way behind on my project TBR anyway, just because of time constraints. But now I've kind of got to this kind of slightly restless slumpiness. It's not working. It's not that I need to stress, it's not that I don't want to read the books that I have in that project, those projects that I've kind of been doing. I really, really do. It's just I don't necessarily want to read the ones that are on the schedule right now. So it's not about having a change of heart with regards to the books in the projects and the projects themselves. I still really want to do those. It's about not being able to kind of manage being tied to a fixed order or schedule, which is what I'd come up with. It's entirely of my own doing, of course, but and in that respect, that's a good thing because I can then undo it. I need to mood read basically at the moment, otherwise I won't read at all, and I want to avoid that at all costs. So how am I going to fix this then? All of the books, I think there are 52 books on my reading projects, across my various reading projects at the moment, still slated for this year essentially. Averaging about 5 a month. That's what they'd been kind of put in a schedule at. Those remain. That I'm sticking with those. I put those on the schedule, on the projects rather, because I really want to read them. But rather than keeping to a timetable with them, that TBR is going to just become a big pool of books for each project that I can pick from whenever I want. And so there's no kind of structure to the timings of when I read things. The only exception here is buddy reads, because I've already got several buddy reads sort of, pretty much confirmed for the rest of the year, and another 5 possibles. And I really want to do the buddy reads. I'm really looking forward to those. All of my buddy reading experiences so far have been brilliant, and have really kind of upped my enjoyment level of the books. And I think it's a perfect way for me to like keep going with these books as well, and like making sure that I'm getting some in, like even if it's just one in each month. Get buddy reading with people is great. The reading experience is often, as I say, heightened, but also you just get to know the person better as well. It's lovely. So I'm absolutely want to keep those in. So if we've already kind of like discussed a buddy read for one of the books on my lists, then we're still good. We're still absolutely all good. For the original timetable for that. But outside of the buddy reads, I'm free-forming it. The only ordered project that will remain is the Stephen King project that I'm doing, because the whole point of that is to read his stuff in publication order. So I'll continue doing that in publication order. But in terms of the timescale of that project, I will just read the next one in that order when I feel like it. They'll get read when they get read, basically. I'm just going to take my time with all of it. There is no earthly reason why I should need to fit all of these books in within 2025. If we go into 2026 with them, that's no big deal. The projects just keep going into next year. It's about reducing that kind of pressure on myself again. To remove all the time pressures and rigidity from my reading at the moment. I just need to be able to read what I want when I want to. And I just realised I'd kind of started to stress about it. I started to stress about getting behind on the schedule and not really wanting to read that book that was slated next on my TBR. And like, that's stupid, because it's like my reading is for pleasure. It's a hobby, and I should be enjoying it, and I want to enjoy it. There shouldn't be any stress related to my reading. That's one area of my life I can remove all stress quite easily, and so that's what this is. This reassessment of how I go forwards with my projects is all about. In terms of how it'll affect my booktubing, things like that, I don't think it will, to be honest. It won't affect the video content. You'll still get reviews of the project reads and wrap-ups and all that kind of usual good stuff. They just won't necessarily be in the order I originally planned for them. But it'll definitely, as I say, I'll definitely be reading all of the books on the project lists at some point. I will shift the 20th century horror reads that I have to individual videos. I had the first one I did was a pair up, because I originally had them as pairs, one US, one UK book. But yeah, when I've read one, I will do a little thoughts on video for it, but it'll just be an individual one. I am going to, I think, for the time being, kind of move away from doing 2 videos a week as standard. Again, that was my commitment to myself to do that, but it's just a bit much at the moment. I'm struggling to fit it in terms of the filming, the editing, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to keep 1 video a week as a definite for sure. That's a commitment I definitely will make, and that'll be on a Sunday. That'll come out Sunday 5:00. That will be the definite schedule time. If I can fit in another video for my Friday slot, or a tag for Tuesday or what have you, then I will, but it just won't be every week at the moment. So yeah, I think hopefully if I can reduce my output a little, stop trying to cram everything in, I'll have more time for reading, and also more time to watch other folks' videos and engage a bit more with them. It's like I found increasingly difficult to do that recently as well, in terms of like having enough time to watch folks' videos and comment on them and actually, you know, interact with people. And I love that side of BookTube, and I've definitely felt it wane for me a little bit recently, and I want to get back into that. So yeah, hopefully all of these changes will just really make BookTube and reading just stress-free. That's all I need. I just need that to have no kind of constraints on it whatsoever at the moment. Okay, so with that all out of the way, let's get into what I have actually managed to read recently. Despite not feeling, you know, that I've been in that much of a reading mood, I have managed to get through a fair bit since like the end of January. I think that's probably when this goes back to. So let's have a little look then at what I've read since my last reading ramble. The first one was Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter Miller Jr. There is a review out on the channel for this already, which I'll link to in the description. I will link to all of my reviews that I mention here, all the books that I have reviewed on here. This was a 3-star. There was a lot about it that I did enjoy, but it was a bit uneven, I think, for me. It's a stitch-up novel, which I learned after reading it, and it makes complete sense. 3 parts, essentially. The first part, I think, is an absolutely, or would have made an absolutely cracking novella on its own, and I would have been quite happy if it had stopped at the end of part 1. Part 2 I really didn't get on with. Part 3 was okay, but I think by the time I'd got through part 2, I'd kind of lost the will a little bit with it. It was interesting. It's a very interesting setup, and it's got a very interesting writing style to it. But yeah, there was, as I say, it was a very mixed bag. Then I read Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. I've got a review out for this as well. This was great fun. This was really good fun. A haunted house type story, but instead of a house, it's a mystery luxury space liner. Think Titanic in space. That has been lost for years and then gets rediscovered by the crew of a kind of a maintenance sort of vehicle. They discover a signal, a mysterious signal, and track the signal, and it ends up at this ship. And so they board it, of course, looking for some loot and something that will mean that they can stake their claim to it as kind of a salvage sort of, you know, claim, make them rich. And yeah, when they board it, strange things start to happen. So yes, it's quite spooky, quite creepy. Lost it a little bit for me at the end. It went in a direction that I kind of didn't really like, but it was still highly entertaining. I give it a 3.5 stars. Next up was Days of Shattered Faith by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This was a buddy read with my friend Lecton over at Reading from the Depths. We read all 3 of the trilogy, the Tyrant Philosophers trilogy, and this is the 3rd, the final one. Trilogy, possibly a series, fingers crossed a series. I've got a full wrap-up of those 3 books already out. So all I'll say here is loved it, absolutely fantastic. It's 4.5 stars, purely because it wasn't quite at the level of amazingness that the first 2 were for me, but it's still brilliant. And yeah, if you want to hear me gush about all 3 of those books, then check out my review. Okay, next up, something completely different. This was for Garb August 3.5, The Wasted Weekend in mid-February. I just picked one bit of trash to read, and I picked some Warhammer, and I picked Da Big Daka by Mike Brooks. This was an audiobook. This is the Orcs versus the Drukhari, the Dark Elves, and they are dark, very, very dark. The Orcs, however, are not dark. They are the comedy relief in Warhammer. It is a grim, dark environment, a grim, dark setting for sure. There's a lot of nastiness, even from the good guys in Warhammer. That's one reason why I love it. It's bonkers. That's another reason why I love it. But the Orcs are really, they are the comedy relief. they're based on like English football hooligans. They're all cockneys. They're all quite dopey in a lot of ways, and they just want to fight stuff. They just want to hit stuff. They are highly entertaining characters in general. And this was essentially lots and lots of action, and some humor and some darkness from the dark elves, the Drukhari, and some nice little smatterings of kind of lore in terms of, a bit of extra stuff for me to go off and look up. This one thing I'll say about this one actually is, I wouldn't recommend this as a first book in the Warhammer universe for anybody who's wanting to get into it. You definitely would benefit from having some knowledge of the orcs, less so because they are a little bit easier to kind of get into. But the Drukhari, for instance, and Komora, which is the city where they live, and where that's located and stuff like that. It would be worth kind of knowing a little bit of background on that, going in as this is your first. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the best reading experience, but it's once you've got a little bit under your belt, a little bit of lore and knowledge under your belt, then absolutely it's a cracker, that one. I really, really enjoyed it. Very, very good fun. I gave it a 4-star on Storygraph. Then we've got one of my horror reads, which was Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. This has sat on my shelf for years, and I finally got around to reading it. I'll have a review out for this soon. But yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot. I think I've given it a 4 stars on Storygraph. My only criticism of it really is, it doesn't feel like, this isn't a criticism, this is an observation first. It doesn't feel like horror to me. It feels like dark fantasy. I would not say that this was a horror. It has horror elements, but it's not a horror for me. The criticism for me is that whilst I absolutely adore Bradbury's prose style, he has one of the most distinctive voices for me, and one of my favourite sort of prose styles. There were parts of this where it just was a bit too much. There was a bit too much of it, where it kind of got a little bit too treacly. And I was just kind of like, come on, Ray, move it along now. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a cracking story. I think I probably would have got more out of it if I'd have read it when I was younger. I think this is absolutely perfect for a young teenage boy. I think that you'd get loads out of it. But I think I would have related to it even more if I'd have read it when even I was just a little bit younger, even in my 20s, something like that. But yeah, it's still a cracking book, just maybe a little bit too much of that very lyrical prose in parts for me. Okay, next up was The Shining by Stephen King. Another reread for me. Reread number 8, something like that. I've lost track with that one. This is a 5-star. This has been a 5-star for years, still is a 5-star. It's my second favourite King book. It remains as such. I love it. I think it's got one of the best settings and sort of atmosphere of any King, certainly the ones that I've read. It's got some of the best scenes for me in any horror novel. Things that are just so memorable for me. I absolutely love it. And it still has that wonderful kind of creep factor and the ability to freak me out when I'm reading it or listening to it, late at night on my own, even though I know it super well. So yeah, absolutely fantastic book. And then we've got another couple of reads to round out my reading. There's too many R's in that sentence. When I got ill then basically and needed easy comforting things, so I one of the days when I was at my worst with the cold and I was all like, fluid temperature, like got temperature and stuff, I just stayed in bed and listened to the entirety of Legends and Lattes again. I've lost track of how many times I've actually read that in its entirety now, or listened to it. It is the perfect comfort read. It's still a 5-star book, absolutely love it. And then I went on to read Bookshops and Bone Dust as well. This was only the second time that I'd read that one or listened to that one. And yeah, again, another fantastic comfort read. I got through most of that when I was ill, and then I've just finished it off the last couple of nights, basically, sort of bedtime reading. And that's 4-star on Storygraph. Legends and Lattes is a 5. Yeah, Bookshops and Bone Dust, it's not as good as Legends and Lattes, but it's still, as I say, for what it is and for why I love it, it's still fantastic. Okay, so that's everything that I read. I actually got read. What am I in the middle of then? I am part way through Earth Abides by George Stewart, I believe. This one might be a DNF. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to still give it a little bit more time in case it's partly to do with my slump or illness that I'm just not really getting into it. But I don't think it is, but I'm going to keep going for now. Yeah, I don't like the main character at all. I think he's complete arse. And I think also it's perhaps a little too bucolic for me, in terms of it's too nice a view of a post, of an apocalypse or post-apocalyptic sort of society for me. I think I like my apocalypses a bit darker, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's mainly the main character that I'm really not enjoying reading at all. But we'll see. I'm gonna keep going with it, and we'll see. But it might be a DNF. Speaking of darker apocalypses, I have also started The Stand, so the 4th Stephen King in that publication order. This is going to take me a couple of months to work my way through. This is a reread. This is only the second time that I'll have read it. This is the uncut version. It's audiobook. I'm only about 4 or 5 hours into it at the moment. And it's 48 hours long, so it's going to take me a while. But so far, it's fabulous. Still fabulous book. And then I've also been dipping in to this. Nature Poems, the National Trust book of nature poems. Yeah, it's not the sort of thing that I sit and read from beginning to end. I've been dipping in and out for stuff. It's got some fantastic poems in it, some favourites of mine, and lots of stuff that's new to me, both classical poems and some more contemporary stuff. And yeah, it's been lovely to dip into that and read some of especially the wildlife ones I really love. And some of the stuff about like spring and things like that, the seasons. So I will keep just dipping in and out of that one. So there we go, that's everything that I have read and I am in the middle of at the moment. So anything coming up of note? There is Old School April coming up very shortly. I can't wait for this. I love this event so much. It is one of my favourite events. And it's fabulous in terms of flexibility as well. I don't need to worry about doing like a pile of possibilities and finding things specifically for the event. I can just read exactly what I want, and there is guaranteed there will be a prompt that will fit the book, or at least the book will fit any one or probably several prompts on the massive long list of prompts that Kelsi's come up with. Plus I can watch some fun movies and TV and stuff like that, and prompts for those as well. It's just going to be a really chill but really good fun event. I love it. So I'll definitely be doing some stuff for that. As I say, beyond that, I'm not planning anything. I would really like to get in an Adrian Tchaikovsky book soon. I really want to keep reading my way through his back catalogue, and I want to do some more. I want to get through some more Warhammer books as well. I've got quite a few in my Audible library, and I definitely want to kind of dig into those a bit more as well. And just, yeah, as I say, at the moment it's going to be like fun, cozy, trashy stuff, easy stuff, maybe some graphic novels because like that's easier for me to read. Yeah, just see where the mood takes me. Okie dokes. Next up, recent acquisitions. I have had a few things come into the house over the last 6 weeks or so. I have been a bit naughty, seeing as that I'm on a Read What You Own challenge. But I saw bargains, and I can't resist bargains for cheap books. So I've kind of made the rule that like I'm not allowed to read them until I finish my Read What You Own challenge, which I'm currently up to 18 books on, and my target is 25 books before mid-April, before my birthday, basically, when I might get some more books. So it's not too bad, and a lot of these, there's kind of I've built in a caveat a little bit as well, so I'll do that when I come to it. So what did I get? First one is Hyperion by Dan Simmons, which is on my science fiction project list, and is one of the ones I really want to get to. So I might actually, now I'm not doing a schedule anymore, I might actually dip into this one sooner. It was on the cards for July, but I might actually start that sooner because I really want to read this. So yeah, I needed to get that one anyway. Plus, it was a bargain in one of my favourite bookshops. It's like £3. And then whilst I was in that bookshop, I also found Dark Carnival by Ray Bradbury, so a collection of short stories, another £3. And I'd seen this a few times in Waterstones, but I'd never picked it up at full price, and so I couldn't resist really. So short story collections are something I have started to I've made a caveat for those because I need to read more short stories for like just improving my knowledge of the short story form, especially as somebody who's trying to like edit them and also write them myself. It's really kind of, important that I really kind of get a grip on what you can do with that form. And they're just good to have around because you can just dip in and out of them. They're great. I love them. So yeah, short story collections are a little bit different to like buying a novel. So yeah, picked that up. Then I found this, same £3, Foundation and Empire by Isaac Asimov. The second in the Foundation series. I've read the first. And I never see this one cheap, like new and cheap anywhere. And I want to kind of try and make sure that I get this edition because I really like these designs. And I've read that's the first one I've got in this edition. So I thought I'll have that can sit on the shelf until I'm ready to continue with that series. So that was my little selection from one of my favourite bookshops, which I don't go to regularly at all, but my wife and I went for a nice walk and then a bit of cake at the bookshop, and so I had to look at the books, didn't I really? Be rude not to. Then I've got a couple that were sent to me, so these are completely allowed. The first one is from my fabulous friend Troy, Mr. Troy Tradup, and that's Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King, with the illustrations by Bernie Wrightson. I'm looking forward to this one. I think I will probably try and read this for Old School April because it's really good and short, and I know there's a prompt about like mixed media. So there we go. So yeah, definitely we'll get that in probably sooner rather than later. So thank you very much, Troy, for that. And then from my lovely friend Lecton over at Reading from the Depths, he sent me Monstrilio in paperback with the nice cover. I mentioned in a video, probably not that recently now, that the UK paperback edition, they changed the cover design, and I really don't like the new cover design. This is the same as the hardback, which I think is beautiful, and this is a cracking cover design. And yeah, the American edition stayed the same, and us Brits got some sort of monstrosity, and not in a good way. So Lecton saw this and sent me this, got it for me. So I'm super chuffed with that. Now I have a beautiful edition on my shelves, and I can finally get around to reading it. So excellent, thank you, Lecton. Then, speaking of Troy, back to Troy again, but this time this is one of my purchases, and this is The Forsaken Boy, a werewolf novel by Troy Tradup. I do have this, I have this on ebook already, but Troy's novels will disappear from sale, or they might have even already disappeared from sale. It's sometime in March, and it's the only one of his that I don't have as hard copy, or didn't have as hard copy until now. I have his other two on the shelf just down here, and I wanted to complete the Tradup collection and have them all in hard copy, essentially. Then we've got a couple that, I went into the local Oxfam shop in my closest town. My wife was shopping and she was taking longer than me, so I thought I will kill some time in the Oxfam bookshop, which is dangerous, really, isn't it? I should never have set foot in there. But these two do come into the caveat of short story collection, so I don't feel so bad. The first one is Cornish Horrors, Tales from the Land's End, one of these wonderful British Library editions of short stories. Lots of different stuff in here from different authors, local authors, as well as further afield. So you've got some Poe in here, and you've got some Stoker in here, and so E.M. Bray, Arthur Conan Doyle. So yeah, a mix of stuff in there. And then this one I could not resist. This is called 8 Ghosts, and it's a book produced by English Heritage. English Heritage manage and conserve a lot of historic buildings, sites in the UK. There's a lot of the ruined castles, castle ruins, things like that are English Heritage, but they have other stuff as well. They kind of manage other stuff as well. So yeah, I'd never come across this before, and I just happened to notice Max Porter on the front. I love Max Porter. I absolutely adore Lanny and Grief is the Thing with Feathers, and just his writing in general I think is amazing. So I had to get this, a short ghost story by Max Porter. All right then. And it's got Mark Haddon and Jeanette Winterson, Andrew Michael Hurley, and then the others I don't know. This is what it says on the back. 8 authors were given the freedom of their chosen English heritage site, from medieval castles to a Cold War nuclear bunker. Immersed in the past and chilled by rumours of hauntings, they channeled their darker imaginings into a series of extraordinary new ghost stories. So yes, they obviously went on site onto these sites and explored and stuff, and then wrote stories about them. So I love that idea, but I just thought, Max Porter, all right, having that. So yeah, we'll see what that's like. Very interesting. And then finally, one audiobook that I treated myself to in an Audible sale because I was feeling poorly, and when I feel poorly, I'm terrible, I spend money. And that was Horus Rising, which is book 1 in the Horus Heresy, which is Warhammer 40k, of course. And this is kind of like a core story to Warhammer 40k lore, the universe. And it's the first book in what is, I think, now like a 70 book series, like 70. It's a big series, but I do really want to get into it. But I waited until I was a little bit better with the general kind of setup of the universe, a little bit more about the lore than just being a complete beginner. This one apparently is not necessarily the best for complete beginners. So I thought I'll have that and we'll give it a go. It's Dan Abnett, so it should be good. But yes, I'll see what I make of that, and then whether I can get through the other 69 in the series before I'm 50 or something. Okay, so that's all of my acquisitions. before I head off, any other updates for you? Trash Tales editing is in full swing now. I'm working my way through our fabulous stories and doing all of the copy editing for that. I'm having a blast with that, absolutely loving it. I'm still doing my editing courses, getting towards the end of those now, but illness and other things have just thrown me off a little bit on my timing. But I'm nearly there, and I'm doing well. I'm doing well, so that's the main thing. And yeah, still really enjoying those. I got a new camera. I'm not filming with it. I'm still on my phone today because I literally just got it today, and so it needs charging, and I need to figure it out and all that kind of stuff. It's a GoPro, so I'll be using it for filming BookTube, and also then for when I want to get out and do some filming of my hikes and nature and all that kind of stuff. So this will probably be the last video that you see on in this setup with this camera. It won't look that much different, I doubt. Hopefully it looks slightly better, I don't know. Possibly not to start with, it might take me a while to get used to it. But we'll see. But yes, nice to have a fancy new bit of kit to play with. Other than that, I haven't really been up to that much. I had a week alone last week alone in the house. My wife went on holiday and took the dog with her, and I stayed and entertained the cat. And I've got plans for doing lots of stuff. I wanted to paint loads of miniatures and do loads of writing and do some artwork and all this kind of stuff. Speak to all my friends, catch up with friends, things. And then I got ill, 3 days into the week, and that was it then. I didn't do anything other than watch comfort films, watch comfort TV. So I did manage to get through some, both the big Avengers movies and all Lord of the Rings extended versions, most of Pirates of the Caribbean series, Buffy, quite a lot of Buffy as well, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I did a little bit of gaming, but that was I flitted around from things and got very little actually done. But I had a nice time, at least. I did at least manage to distract myself from feeling rubbishy for most of it. But yeah, so there's not a huge amount to update you on, especially when it comes to things like writing and things. I'm just still trying to find time to get that done. But, keep positive, keep plodding on with it, and I will get there eventually. But I think that's enough rambling for today. I've probably been going on for quite a long time. So I will leave it there for now and say thank you very much for watching, folks, as always. Do drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be back with another video next week, so I do hope you'll join me for that then. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.